Welcome to Blind Level Tech. This isn't just accessible tech talk. This is technology on a whole new level. We're showing you just how possible it is to live the life you want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blind Level Tech. I am your host, Evan Starnes, and this week we're going to be continuing the trend of cool new AI innovations. But first, before we get into that, I just have to announce that early giving for Colorado Gives Day it's actually been ongoing for a couple of weeks. Colorado Gives Day will fall on December 9th this year, and as per the usual, we will be promoting it quite a lot if you haven't already heard any of our, PSAs. But if you'd like to donate to Aftersight or any other nonprofit around Colorado, go ahead and go to coloradogives.org. And we had a $15,000 goal last year, and we exceeded that, and we hope to do the same this year. So I'm super excited. coloradogives.org will definitely be linking to that in the show notes. But today, I actually have two guests joining me today, and they are developers behind a new fintech product called HaloFi. And for our audience, anytime that we reference fintech, we're referring to financial technology. But joining me today is Andrew, Babin, and Liam Haley. Welcome to Blind Level Tech, both of you. How are your Thursdays treating you so far?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Andrew, let's first start with you and your personal background. You're one of the co-developers of this HaloFi platform, but before that, you just, I believe, left a full-time position. You have Stargardt's disease. You previously worked in construction. But yeah, can we just get a glimpse of your background?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was born and raised in the Philadelphia area. I have one older brother, and I was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease when I was 13 years old. So I've been dealing with that challenge for a long time. And I went to college here in Philadelphia at St. Joseph's University. And afterward, I actually took up a job in construction, where I quickly realized that was not my passion, which is funny. So I was in the office there, and I quickly became obsessed with finance, personal finance specifically. So I was kind of the guy in the office that helped people, set up accounts and start investing just based off my passion. And that really inspired me to look for a job in finance. So in 2020, I applied for a role out in Malvern, Pennsylvania, so near where I grew up. Got a internal sales job at an ETF, an exchange traded fund distributor. So I was calling financial advisors and selling exchange traded funds to institutional buyers, which was fun. And then I moved here in Philadelphia to another asset management firm where I've been for the last 4 years. But I departed that role on November 1st to pursue HaloFi. So really excited about that. My professional background is really focused in finance, personal finance. I have my certified financial planner designation, so I'm kind of just like a guru for all things finance.
Right, and it seems like you've got a bit of a technical background as well on the flip side. Let's how about you, Liam? Let's hear a little bit about your background. Basically, an audio selfie is what we call these.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. The last 3 or 4 years, I've worked specifically in AI, working for a startup, building AI agents and things of that nature. Andrew and I have known each other for 15 years, and we've always kind of discussed business ideas and different things, what we wanted to build, businesses we wanted to do. And, over the last year or so, we had been kind of theorizing ideas of where our strengths kind of came together. And Andrew's with that strong background in finance, and me building an AI, we kind of came to this crossroads of the perfect product to build, which was HaloFi.
Ah, that's awesome. Okay, well, let's actually talk about the origins, because it seems like you guys are a dynamic duo, and it's your strengths and stuff complement each other, and hence we have HaloFi as an innovation. But first of all, I love the origin of names and how people come up with product names. So how did you guys come up with Halify as a name first? I'm curious.
Yeah. So that's a funny one. So, like Liam said, we have always been exploring different ideas, and I actually had the idea of I wanted to launch an exchange traded fund that had some Bitcoin exposure into like the S&P 500. So without getting too nerdy, it was an idea for a new fund people could invest in. And I just consulted ChatGPT and different AI tools to come up with names. And then it said Halo Funds. I thought that sounded pretty futuristic. And pretty shortly after that, we, sort of changed course to think about, going the direction of voice-driven financial insights and, an application that's voice-driven. So we kind of transferred the name over and we went with Halo Finance and shortened it to HaloFi.
That's awesome. Well, very cool. And so what exactly is HaloFi like? What problem was it created to solve initially?
Yeah. So I'll tell you sort of the story here. So this past summer, we were at my girlfriend and I were at an event for the Foundation Fighting Blindness. And this was one of my first events in a while. So they were giving a presentation on accessible technology for blind and low vision people. And my ears kind of perked up because I love technology. I love finance. And I was kind of waiting for, okay, what kind of tools do they have in, finance and technology that people could use? But there wasn't really much conversation around that specific area. And even AI, there wasn't as much mention of AI as I would have thought.
That's surprising.
Yeah. And for me, as someone who's has low vision, I've always, for the last 2 years, used AI heavily. And what I've been doing is feeding it sort of my financial positions and asking it real-time questions with my voice. It has a voice model built into it. So I would ask it questions like, what's my net worth? Or what threats to my, current financial situation am I not recognizing? Things of that nature. What am I spending money on? Where is my money going? So the issue with that, though, was that it wasn't updating in real time. So you would have had to just feed it the raw information every time you wanted an insight. So Liam and I kind of got together once we realized that, this didn't really exist, like voice-driven financial coaching. And we, wanted to develop a product where you could link your real-time financial information to an application. And then rather than engage with it with your eyes, look through financial information with your eyes, which is traditionally, finance is very visual focused. You could just ask it questions with your voice. And this is it's a concept that we started throwing around, started bringing up to different organizations and other low vision individuals. And everyone said, the feedback we got overwhelmingly was that this would be an incredible tool. And it turns out, that the more research we've done, we realized that the voice, language, natural language is the most, efficient way for humans to communicate. It carries the least cognitive load. So, touching, swiping, and typing on a keyboard are learned behaviors, whereas just speaking is, natural, and it's what humans prefer to do. And they tend to prefer efficiency over the long term. So what we wanted to do is really just build a financial platform where the product is the voice model. You could just speak to it, ask it questions. Whenever you open a finance app, it's a lot of data. It's overwhelming. We wanted to cut that out. And, if you want to open the app to know what your spending looks like, just open up and ask. If you want to know what your balances are, open up and ask. If you want to know what your investments are doing, just ask with your voice and it responds. So we're trying to create really the most efficient, way to engage with finance. And we're doing that by choosing the route of the voice. So that's really our goal, is to develop the most superior and best voice-driven finance platform that we can.
Excellent. And it just answered a follow-up question I had as far as why specifically you went with the voice input as opposed to your traditional graphical user interface input. And it definitely does make a lot of sense. And I'll respond to a couple of points first. I take it then your go-to LLM is ChatGPT because, well, their voice mode is quite powerful and it's a lot easier to brainstorm with and to come up with new ideas as opposed to the back and forth traditional text-based mode that we're all used to. So that's definitely pretty neat. And yeah, finance, like from my experiences too, a lot of financial apps will let you see data as far as how much you're spending, but a lot of it is represented with graphs and charts and things that are not accessible from the get-go. So being able to ask it, how much did I spend this month on food, and just having it come back to you with an answer is well, it'll save a lot more time than trying to OCR something or navigate a convoluted web page or whatever it might be. And in developing HaloFi, did you happen to run into just any personal accessibility challenges or just lessons or things that you had to overcome?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something I call the accessibility gap. So for a
Right.
very long time, we've been interacting with technology with our eyes and with keyboards, right? So that's been how it is. And for blind and low vision people, that's one of our weaknesses, right? Is our vision. So, accessibility tools on top of this world of, visual focused tech hasn't been perfect. We've been trying to bridge the gap as much as we can to use these different technological tools. But now that we have the voice, these voice models emerging, we're hoping that we can close that accessibility gap by building on the platform that is, voice first, right? Voice focused. So yeah, I would say, a lot of this idea was inspired by the accessibility gap that, millions of Americans face with low vision. But we're trying to build it into something that, is not only accessible for blind and low vision people, but that happens to be even more efficient if you're fully sighted. Why wouldn't someone who's fully sighted want to just get an answer to a question very quickly as opposed to opening an app and sorting through, a ton of data where 95% of it doesn't answer the question that they're wondering. So yeah, I would say the inspiration was informed from, my challenge and the challenge of many people. But it could go a lot bigger than just, an accessible tool.
Oh, yes, definitely. And just in regards to in regards to voice input, and I feel like in years past, it was a lot more of a clunky, I feel like it was a lot more frowned upon in some ways because, your typical voice input, if we're thinking about the older version of Alexa or Google Assistant or any of these is that, yes, you can use natural language, but any of the prompts or anything that you give it have most likely been already programmed by somebody. So if you tell it to play a song, somebody's already programmed that prompt into, the system to know that when you say play a song, it means to play music, so you kind of had to speak to these things a little robotically or use very specific terminology. And I think the beauty of large language models like GPT, Gemini, Llama, and any of these is that you're able to use completely natural language and, don't have to fuss around with wording. And I think that's going to, that's a huge advantage that, especially that these large language models have over your typical voice models. And let's talk though about the basic core features of HaloFi. We kind of have already, but I'm wondering personally, yes, I can ask it, how much did I spend on something? But I was wondering, could I ask it for financial advice? I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is a question.
Yeah. So you can, ask it for guidance. I would say we have to be careful about financial advice because
Right.
that would require us to, comply with SEC guidelines, which we eventually do plan on doing. It's just, to start, I would say version 1 is, okay, we have all the raw information of someone's finances and they can ask questions and insights into it. So that's sort of version 1 where we start. If someone does want to ask for general guidance in a certain direction, they can do that. It just might give you an answer that is more educational as opposed to this is what you should do. So that's version 1. And then, in the future, if this does become successful and people find it useful, we do want to expand further into action as well. So not just, how much is in my bank account. We could say, I want to transfer $100 from checking to savings. So our goal is really to have this in the future as good as, you have someone right in front of you who's fully sighted and can process information at the speed of light and is accessible and available 24/7. That's really the goal, is to really do anything that you could if you're in person at the bank or sitting with a financial advisor.
That's what I saw it as. I almost visualize it as you're talking to an AI financial advisor, effectively. It sounded like that, but it does sound like, as with any AI product, you take any response it gives you with your own discretion. And, because AI, of course, as we all know, can make mistakes, but I still think it would be nice to be able to say, like, if I put 10% of my money in savings, how much would I have in 12 months and stuff like that? I mean, I know you could do those basic calculations, using a calculator, but gosh, I mean, it just not having to do any of that is honestly a huge time saver. And I think it'll really help as far as, financial strength. I don't know. I don't have a better term for it at this time, but just becoming more financially literate and building better budgets. I've messed with other financial and money tracking tools. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm definitely excited to see your future development. I think I'm curious to know too if it'll eventually be able to give like notifications or weekly summaries or things like that outside of the app, kind of like some other apps do. Is that a planned feature possibly?
Yeah, so we already have we have a couple different features built into it already, where it can give you a weekly summary, it can give you a daily snapshot. So really what we're trying to do is have people be able to engage with this thing, on a weekly basis, I would say. So it's not just let me check, my balances or my spending like when you want to, but it could prompt you to say, hey, here's your weekly summary. You click on that and then it speaks to you directly and will say, okay, your credit card with this much due is due on Friday. Your rent payment's due on Saturday. So it could kind of speak to you as if you have an assistant next to you who's just saying, this is everything you need to know for the week that relates to your finances. So yeah, a couple different prompts that we're sort of, putting in there and playing around with, and we're going to be updating those to sort of, show people different ways that they can engage with this tool.
Right on. That's awesome. Now, as an audio guy and a tech geek, I do have kind of I guess more of a funny sort of question. Because this app uses voice input, therefore, you talk to it and it'll respond back to you. Especially with the ability with things like 11 Labs and even just some of the ChatGPT voices, is it possible to customize the voice that you use and the way it responds? I'm only saying that because it would be kind of funny to ask, I don't know, I'm thinking of Darth Vader for now, so that's just off the top of my head. Or like just any sort of a surfer dude or something like that for financial advice. That would be hilarious.
Right. So to start, we're going to keep it simple. We are using 11 Labs.
Nice.
We'll give you like 2 men voices, 2 female voices to choose from, and then have the option to kind of custom select the speed in which you want your answers. So to start, we'll kind of keep it simple with those sort of voices. And then, yeah, we can absolutely look to expand out to some more of those unique, crazy voices.
That would be a lot of fun. And if I may ask, what models are you guys using to run this entire platform?
Right. So, we talk about accessibility for visually impaired and blind users, right? But
right.
Really, we're going through a time in history where technology is being, accessible for everybody, right? With this AI wave. So we're really, really lucky to be able to have a lot of these tools at our disposal that make our development time much, much quicker and a lot easier, right? So we're using something called LangChain, which is kind of like the framework that allows us to tie into multiple databases, knowledge sources, voice 11
models.
Labs, voice models, OpenAI models, and kind of tying all of those things together really, really easily.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for that information. And, as a geek, it makes me really happy to know. I've not actually heard of LangChain before, so I might look into that. I've heard of Llama and GPT and all those good ones, but that's new to me. So super neat. Now, how can the community get involved, with the development and, the growth of Halo-Fi? What's the best way?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have been doing a lot of calls with different organizations who work with the blind and low vision community. And I would say, if you're associated with, an organization like the NFB or the AFB, these bigger, nationwide organizations that serve this community, then you'll probably see us on a call. We're also going to be, partnering with them in ways where we're floating them discount codes to get access to this tool at a cheaper rate. And then on top of that, if you do want to follow up with us and just see what we're doing, Liam and I both have personal Instagram, TikTok, YouTube pages where he talks about AI, I talk about finance, and we also have a website, halofiapp.com. So that's HALOFI app.com, where you could join the wait list, you can watch a demo, and we're going to be sending updates as the development continues, just to keep people posted. But pretty soon we're going to be looking for, more test users to just get feedback and have people ask it different questions and give us feedback. So if anyone who's listening is interested in being a test user and helping with the development, we would certainly encourage that. We've been trying to be as open as we can with this community, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones using this product, and we want to make sure it's useful for them.
Absolutely. And we will definitely be linking to the HaloFi website as well as your socials and what have you in the show notes, of course. And for anybody that is blind or has low vision that is looking into getting into finance or financial tech, I've personally found it I found it fascinating myself, but not enough to get into it. But do you have any advice or words of wisdom that you give to somebody that's brand new to finance that is interested in getting into it?
Yeah, so I would say that my answer is sort of the same, whether you have low vision or not. I think that I've interviewed plenty of people during my time at my firms, and what we generally look for is people who are hungry. So people who are showing passion, and they're who are willing to outwork other people, I think, at the end of the day. And the beauty of where we are today with technology to sort of shift this towards people who have low vision is there's so many tools out there that can enable you to do just as good of work, if not better, than people who are fully sighted. So for context, when I joined the financial services industry, I never had an internship. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. I worked in construction right out of college, and it became a passion. I became really hungry, and I got denied probably 10 times before I got a job. And the way that I got a job is just because I had to sell myself. I never had a degree in finance. I didn't have the best grades in college, no background at all, but I just kept following up. I was looking at the website for my company and sending them emails and updating them on things I saw and my thoughts on, different funds that they had launched, things of those nature. So they saw that I was the hungriest person out of all the candidates. And at the end of the day, an opportunity opens up and they're looking for, who could fill this role now. And that just happened to be me after months of getting denied. And it's all about, just your ability to be coachable, I'd say, to be adaptable, to work hard, handle stress. And financial services is certainly a stressful industry, but anyone can do it, whether you have low vision, full vision. It doesn't matter. If you're, a team player, you're coachable, and, you're willing to put in the work, anyone can do it. And it's a great industry. I would highly encourage it.
Oh, totally. Well, on the flip side, with the innovation of AI, artificial intelligence has, the concept of it has been around for decades at this point. But what we know as AI today, your large language models is really what it, comes down to. There's going to be a lot of new careers and positions that will be opening up. And I do believe that the workforce as we know it is going to change and evolve, and it's going to look vastly different I believe in the next few years than it does right now. So what would you say, Liam? Do you have any advice for anybody that's looking into just getting into an AI development position, or just really wanting to work with AI as a career?
Yeah, I really agree with what Andrew was saying, but I think the most important thing that anybody can do today is to simply take action. Right? If you know what you want to do, the best thing is to take that first step and to do just that, take action.
Absolutely. I think if you really need advice on, developing with ChatGPT or just harnessing the power of it, it's literally there and it can answer those questions for you. I've even
exactly
asked it about coding and stuff. Not that I am a proponent of vibe coding, but it's an option out there. It's a good thing, just another avenue.
I would say too, like today, it's easier than ever to take action. I mean, we literally have LLM models that you could put in a problem or an outcome that you want, and it will lay out step by step exactly the actions you should do. But even today, a lot of people choose not to take action, right? It's like analysis by paralysis. There's so much action you could take that a lot of people get paralyzed, don't know what to do. But I would say if you're, like Liam said, if you're showing, that you care, you're taking action, you're taking steps before you even get to that job interview, and showing that, you're willing to do more work than other people and take that action, that's what's really important.
Absolutely. Because I feel like if you stay on top of the trends in AI, if it's your thing and you really want it to be, then jumping on right now and really figuring out what models do what and how you can, like I said a few minutes ago, how you can harness that power, it will set you up for success in the long-term future. Andrew and Liam, where can people find you guys and get in touch or, get involved with HaloFi?
Yeah, so you could find us for my personal pages. You could find me on Instagram. You could find me on LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And I post a lot of personal finance stuff on there. So not as much technology necessarily, but I post kind of personal finance type stuff. So you can find me on there. In terms of HaloFi, we are on LinkedIn. We haven't started posting heavily on there yet, but we're going to start ramping that up shortly. And then we have, pages on YouTube and the bigger platforms that I just mentioned as well. So you can find us on there. And then Liam has his own pages as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I go by liambuilds.ai on all platforms. And then if you wanted to reach out to either of us regarding HaloFi, our emails are just our first names at halofiapp.com.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, we will definitely put those in the show notes, but thank you so much. And before we wrap up this episode, is there any sort of key takeaways or things that you would like our audience to walk away with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, man, one of the biggest questions I get as someone who has Stargardt's disease, right? Is how do you break into these industries, or how do you break into finance, or what do you do, right, if you have low vision? And I sort of answered this a little bit, but I think that like my advice to the audience who might be listening and have a visual impairment is you have to do the best you can with the tools you're dealt, right? You have to just do what you can. And luckily today we have technology that is bringing us so much closer to, to bridge that gap of the information we lose through our eyes, right? So if you're doing the best you can, that's a really, really good start, I would say. So that's sort of my piece of advice. And if anyone wants to reach out to me to talk about that, I'm happy to do it. But I've seen plenty of low vision people be ultra successful and not focus on the negatives, but turn that negative energy into a positive and just hit a grand slam. I mean, there's so many successful low vision people, and anyone can do it.
I totally second that statement. I think with the advent of being able to work from home or remotely, or just the flexibility of the internet, there's a lot more possibilities, and we can decrease the 70% blind and low vision unemployment rate.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people want problem solvers. That's what they want. I mean, if Liam and I are hiring for a position in our company, eventually we want someone who can solve problems independently. And blind, low vision people are the best problem solvers on the planet. I mean, they're solving problems every single day, just to figure out how to run a coffee maker. You might have to take a picture of it and have AI read it. You're solving problems at all times because of your visual impairment. So you are the best problem solvers there are, literally. So if you can harness that energy, you're going to do really well.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I'm sure for those of us who were born blind or with low vision too, we practically grew up problem solving. But I don't know, that's just me. But well, Andrew and Liam, thank you both so much for your time and for coming on Blind Level Tech. And thanks, Andrew, actually, for inviting Liam on, because it wasn't part of the outline at first.
Can we do a quick demo of this product as well for the audience?
I love demos. Actually, we will do that as a BLT bite, and I would love to have a demo. We'll be releasing that as a separate mini episode on Thursday. And if you all out there have any questions, comments, or feedback for any of us here at Aftersight, for our podcast hosts or about our podcasts, feel free to send an email to feedback@aftersight.org. Or if you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can always do that by calling 720-712-8856. This has been another episode of Blind Level Tech. I'm your host, Evan Starnes, and I'll talk to you guys again next Wednesday.